Better or worse? Till death do you part. Do you remember those vows? And if you do you think that it was romantic at that time? If you've been married a while or in a relationship, committed for a while, are you now thinking, oh my gosh, when we got to that part of the ceremony, I would have loved to have an Uncle Larry stand up and shout, what are you nuts? Till death do you part? Do you think it's uncommon to have regrets or to have down times or times where you feel like, oh my God, what did I do? Now I'm committed and my soulmate has become my worst nightmare. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Return to Love podcast. I'm Dr. Deb, your host, and tonight we're going to go behind the closed doors. You know how everybody says you never know what happens with a couple behind closed doors? Well, I have with me a couple that is so special, and they are so gracious to be with me on this podcast to give us a little glimpse into their love and marriage journey. And like all of us, they've been through the ups and downs, and they're going to share their story with us. And I want to tell you that this is not a therapy session. This is a conversation for educational and entertainment purposes. And I have known this lovely couple for quite a while because they're my neighbors. So they are just a gorgeous couple, both physically and spiritually in all ways. Leonella is a fashion model and she is amazing. And her husband, Matteo, is a business owner, entrepreneur, and they are both hardworking and married 2 years, but together 9 years. So, welcome, guys.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Good. I can wave to you across the hallway here.
I know. She just said to me, she's like, "Oh, you closed the door." I was like, "I
Yeah.
don't get distracted."
So, do you relate to that opening of, till death do you part, and it's supposed to be a soulmate forever? And a lot of people feel like, oh my gosh, these ups and downs are not normal. There's moments where we like can't stand each other. How do you relate to that at all?
He's my worst nightmare. Like,
Like I'm the boogeyman. She didn't even know it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could speak on it a little bit, but
Mhm.
the death do us part is like it's funny because as we were getting closer and we were, the engagement happened, and then you start hearing people saying things, and you get the few, chirps in the ear. Hey, you sure you want to be married? Like, it's like it's a
Mhm.
whole different ball game, and it's like you start realizing the negative talk behind the marriage, and
Mhm.
I started realizing too. It's like, what are they dealing with within their marriage?
Yes.
Are
Yes.
they understanding what's right, what's wrong, and so forth in their marriages?
Yeah, and I always think about that better or worse part of the vows. Nobody talks about the worst part. And secondly, nobody talks about what to do about it. So, a lot of people don't have the skills that they need, and then they get into the marriage and they're like, oh my God, all my parts of I'm turning into my father or my mother or my worst nightmare from my childhood. And it's really hard to think about, well, what are we going to do here? Are we going to hang in here? Um, so, nobody really knows what a couple goes through. And I know you guys have had your ups and downs. And tell me what kind of obstacles do you feel? We'll jump right in here. Do you feel you've overcome already that you've put some work into? Because I know you guys are insightful. I know you're therapy oriented and advocates for therapy, which is great. What obstacles do you feel you've been through so far that you've overcome?
I would say, so, obviously, like, marriage is not perfect. You have good seasons, you have,
Mhm.
like, bad seasons. And you just have to work through it. And I feel like
Yes.
we both, we're not perfect. So I
Mhm.
have issues I have to work on in like individual and as like a couple. So I feel like I had to work on my communication.
Mhm.
I I think like it's not that I didn't communicate good with my husband. I just think I was not a great communicator, and I was and
Mm-hmm.
he actually was like, that's something you have to work on, and I'm like, you're right. So I am really big on therapy, and I brought that up in therapy because it was affecting like our relationship. So then I brought it up to my therapist, and I was like, I shut down. I
Mm-hmm.
like confrontation. So
Yeah.
when we have hard conversations, and sometimes I just want to like not talk about it, but we have to
Mm-hmm.
talk about it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that was my biggest thing I had to really work on.
Yeah.
And that stems down also it to childhood, and that's what my
Absolutely.
therapist was saying. So that's what we have to do inner work on ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. You have to have two healthy people, and most of us don't come into it like that. And you're making a really important point that we all come in with communication patterns, and most of us have some kind of trauma from childhood, and how we saw a marriage and how we saw our parents relating. That's what we bring in. So you've gotten very aware, Leonella, of, you tend to be a shuttered downer, a kind of a silent, go silent, wall
She's
off
the
kind of
she's
thing.
the definition of radio silence.
Yeah, which is frustrating. Yeah, but it's
No,
very
no, not
frustrating. It's very
complete silence.
powerful.
It's not
Yeah.
like complete silence that I do that, but we get into the hard conversation, and then I just shut down. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, I need some time. And then sometimes I wouldn't even go back to that conversation
Yeah.
because I'd rather avoid it. But then he's like, no, 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 we
Hmm.
talk about this. And it's true. Like I see it even like with my friends, like in their marriage and their relationship, like it's communication is really important.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, that's the one thing I was going to say. I allowed her to talk about it first because I know that was a little bit of a struggling thing in our relationship was the
Yeah.
communication.
Hmm.
Growing up in my house, I know that my parents were very, like, oh, don't talk about things. Like, keep it to yourself. Like, don't let other people know your business. And
Hmm.
there's some truth to that, but that doesn't apply to a relationship. Like, you have to communicate, you have to discuss things. Things are going to be hard. It's not gonna be pleasantful, but you're not
Hmm.
doing it to attack your partner. Um, you're not doing it to, you know, uh, stir up more problems than there needs to be. But
Hmm.
I also had to learn that constantly, driving the discussion, I had to also respect her because her ability to shut down. I had to give her a
Yeah.
little bit of space for her to understand and say, okay, she doesn't know how to absorb all this at once. Because of work, I have more problem solving skills that I'm good at. So when those things happen,
Hmm.
I have to move forward with work. I can't sit there and be like, oh, I'll come back to it in 3 days and we'll figure this out. I'd get fired. They'd kick me off the job. They wouldn't even
Hmm.
want to talk to me. So
Yeah.
that was my part of like I guess quote unquote downfall of trying to communicate with her, where I had to take a step back and give her a little bit of space for her to kind of gather her thoughts and then understand like
Hmm.
why I was upset or she was upset, and then we can kind of like slowly move forward. But that took some time to get through at that point. So
Yeah.
communication to us was like the hugest
Yeah.
hugest.
So I want to say a little something. So I said, this is not therapy, but you are going to hear me ask some questions that I use every day as a couples therapist. So they're just part of me. So what I'm thinking about is, are you guys now, do you feel like you're getting to building solutions when you have these conversations? Because I see most couples get stuck in the problem talk, the problem description, and then they're going down the rabbit hole. They're stuck in the hamster wheel of describing the problem more and more and more. And I really work with couples to get to building solutions together as partners. Do you guys feel like you've made that shift into building the solutions when you get to the hard conversations?
I do. I feel like we made some progress. I can speak on that because the conversation is a little bit more easier. She doesn't shut down as fast as she used to.
Yeah.
There's occasionally she will, and then she'll come back a little bit quicker.
Mhm.
But I also know that to like give that little bit of buffer space to allow her to process,
Good.
from the conversation and everything.
Yeah, Mateo, I want to stay with you for a second here. I think both girls and boys get messages about how they're supposed to be as far as communicating and, being a woman, a girl. I mean, I was told to be quiet, be pleasant, don't upset your father. I think girls are told to be quiet in one way, and then boys are really told, don't be a wimp, don't man up, suck it up, don't feel anything. What messages did you get, Mateo? Because I know that you are a good communicator, and I know you guys have worked on this so much, but you naturally tend to be a good communicator. You talk my ear off in the parking lot
In
sometimes.
the morning, first thing in the morning.
Yeah, with curlers in my hair. He always sees me with curlers. But but what kind of messages did you get as a boy? How did you learn to be such a good communicator?
Well, that wasn't that easy.
More work.
Yeah, well, honestly,
Mhm.
is
Owning a
when
business.
I started working because I worked at Costco, and that was the one thing.
Okay.
It's like being a kid, 17, 18 years old, like working at a place and being delegated what to do, and
Mhm.
of course, at that age, I'm just like, yeah, I'll do it, and whatever. But I also noticed that people would say things to me like, don't you listen? Like,
Mm.
why don't you just say something from before? And then as I got older and I was pushing for the job opportunities, it kind of like slowly kind of worked into me where I realized I had to communicate. And I think that big to me right now, like working at Costco was
Mhm.
like my biggest life.
Costco couples therapy, right?
Yes, I will advocate for Costco until the day I have to go into that
They're
grave.
gonna put me out of a job.
But yeah, because there was so many personalities, different people, and as I progressed as manager and taking over roles of management and understanding like everybody's got a different way of communicating and trying to understand and if you
Hmm.
don't communicate, can you get anything done? And the answer is no.
Hmm.
Unless you do sign language, that's a whole different
Yeah,
story, but still communicating.
yeah.
But yeah, as that went on, and then when I chose the avenue of going to start my own business, I realized that communication was be with the customers because I did also learn from there that sometimes I wouldn't
Hmm.
communicate to the customer, and the customer would get frustrated. Like, I just need communication. You got to tell me
Hmm.
when you're showing up. You can't just show up here. And I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, but what's the big deal? Like, I'm here.
Hmm.
But I realized that's not right, and that kind of grew on me over the years, and
Yeah.
to the
So
point
you got
where.
to do more than just show up. You have to be listening
Mhm.
and responding. And Leonella, how did you get a message when you were a girl? What message did you get about speaking up for yourself? And we're usually told not to use our voice.
So
Mhm.
speak up a lot. I feel like I just tend to shut down on certain topics. I don't know, and then I just don't want to talk about it.
Mhm.
But when it comes to like speaking up, I do share everything. Like if I feel a certain way or I'm very vocal about it. And I was growing up, I don't know, I was never like actually taught that. No, like in my household, I would just automatically step up and say something if I
Mhm.
saw something wrong in my household because I grew up in a pretty like toxic environment.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of verbal, like mental abuse towards my mom, seeing
Mhm.
that, and I would
Mhm.
always step up for my mom. So
Yeah.
I think I could never stay quiet. If there's
Mm.
something wrong, like I don't like something, I will definitely tell Mateo.
I yelled
Yeah.
at her for getting to take the garbage out the other day.
Mhm.
Yes.
So because she's Spanish, Latin,
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
magnifies like 100 times worse.
Yeah, but it's interesting that at a point in your marriage and your relationship, because you guys were together for a number of years before you got married, that you adopted this being quiet thing, this kind of, withdrawing a little bit, and but you didn't do that in your growing up. What do you think the kind of withdrawing thing was about?
I think I don't know actually. I just think like our relationship was like I don't know, it was so easy. Like as in like we started as friends. It was,
Mm-hmm.
there's no problems and years later still like we have no like pretty much like we disagree, but it was not for like a big argument or anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know, like
I mean, like when we first started dating, it was more like people would come up to us and be like, "Oh, relationship is work," and we're like, "Nah." We look at each other, I'm like, "No, we're fine. Like, no work here. We just kind of go with the flow, type of thing." But as we progressed into a relationship, um, you start learning everybody's habits because from what I learned is like we all come into a relationship with like like a big facade in front of us, and we're like, oh, we
Yes.
don't want to disappoint the other person. Like I really like
Yes.
them, and then
Mm-hmm.
little by little you start kind of bringing that facade down, and then you start having these little habits. Like you might wake up and not comb your hair right, and it's like, hey, every day you combed your hair, but all of a sudden you stop like 2 years
yeah.
later, and it's like habits like that. It's like, and you start getting comfortable and you start adapting a little bit. The other partner starts doing things and you start saying, well, they weren't doing that before, but you realize that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it too. And they're
Yeah.
calling you out on it.
Yeah.
So then that's where it starts to, I feel like when people start realizing like, oh, wow, this whole time we had this facade up and now this is me. This is the real me now. The facade's
Mm-hmm.
down. It's, you take it or you leave it. And, some people leave it up until after they get married. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
learned. And then they changed after they got married. Like, no, you
Yeah.
just didn't pay attention to the facade that they had up for this whole time. And you got married like 3 years into the relationship. You didn't do your homework,
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
What do you mean by do the homework?
Well, I'm referring to as like you're not paying attention to the habits changing slowly of like things that they maybe do. You might not like the way you know, they blow their nose, and all of a sudden you're noticing it now, like, oh, well, that's a weird way of doing it, And it's like for me, for instance, like I would take the garbage out religiously all the time, but now I just like I leave the house, I run out, I'm like, I'll do it later, and then she'll remind me, she'll be like, hey, babe, you forgot to take out the garbage,
Yeah.
and now you
Yeah.
start like little habits, like you kind of
Patterns.
break away,
Yeah.
yes, start breaking
Yeah.
away from it, and it's like irritating the little demons inside.
Mm-hmm. But
You
now
definitely
you,
have to choose. You definitely have to choose
yes,
battles all
choose
the
your battles. I was going to say what you can let go of. And you guys said in the beginning, you're getting to the hard conversations now, which I love because for me, that's the heart of intimacy. Intimacy is not just sexuality or affection or touch. It's opening to each other in all areas. And it is about taking on the harder issues. You have to be willing to do that to rock the boat and take each other on, not aggressively, but to be willing to bring things up and then to work them through together as partners, not as adversaries. Now, I know,
Yeah, I tried to tell her like, hey, you got to cut back on spending. You got to give me back the credit card. That didn't go well, so I just left that alone.
What? You never said that.
how did you get through that one? Did you
No,
just
no,
let it go?
no. She's good with the
Yeah.
finances.
I
Like,
never.
she's not. She's
Like
yeah.
from day one, like since we've been together, like that first year, Mateo gave me a credit card. Like he's like the full provider. Like if I didn't have to work like at all, I don't have to work. But you know, I feel like I've gotten better with spending. I'm not. I start asking myself, do I need it or do I want it? And I feel like that has helped me more.
Yeah.
The best part of it all is what she said to me one day. I said to her, I'm like, hey, like, what the hell happened here? And she's like, I know. I think I have a spending problem. And I'm like, you think? And not that it was anything terrible. It's just that it was something that little bit like
Yeah.
that wasn't normally
I
occurring
was
that I
like
caught my attention.
compulsive.
But
And
like,
she's like, I'm sorry. She goes, I just really like these things. I'm like, yeah, you just gotta take it easy.
Yeah,
yeah,
I guess
but you weren't afraid to bring it up. You weren't afraid to say
No,
it.
no,
You
no,
know.
no.
Yeah.
Because I would expect her if I would did something, even though like I'm the one that's working and and she's taking care of the house and doing other things. Like I like if she said to me, like, hey, I don't think you should have bought that brand new car out of nowhere, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know what, good idea, I'll go return it, but I won't return it. I'll just hide
Yeah.
it in my parents' garage.
well
But did you really do that? You didn't do
No,
that.
no, I'm just being.
You-
Okay, no hiding cars in garages.
oh my God, no,
Now that I think of
he
it,
would
my
do that.
mother used to hide. Yeah, my mother used to hide clothing that she bought, but she didn't work. And, there would be a thing in plastic in the closet. And she's like, I have to leave it there until, the bill goes by and your dad doesn't realize it. which is
No,
great.
the whole thing with communicating about finances, that definitely has gotten better. Not
good.
that she was out of control or anything like
No,
that,
Mhm.
but it was just being like, she'd be like, "Hey, is it cool if I buy this?" And I'm
but
like,
I
"Can you just
wouldn't.
wait like a week?" I was like, and then we'll see. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I'll have a little bit extra
Mhm.
money saved. I'm like, "Oh, here you go. Just
What are you
go."
talking about? I don't really ask him if I could buy something. It's in if it's a
Yeah,
big
Yeah, that's what I'm
purchase
saying.
or
yeah,
something. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
But
And
these are
also, I
common
think I
issues.
was kind of compulsive at one point. Like, I'd be like, just buying stuff out of nowhere, and it's still in
Mm.
my closet.
Well, so how did you get to the point where it's okay? You just kind of naturally open up to each other now? It just kind of happened naturally, or did you have a
No, we had the hard
conversation?
conversation at
Okay.
one point. Yeah, no, we did. It was, and it
Mhm.
wasn't like it was a difficult conversation. It was
No,
just more like,
Yeah.
hey, just keep in mind that we have other goals that we need to like focus on. So if you start
Hmm.
taking away things now, it
Yeah.
makes it harder to reach that goal. So that was like the way I kind of placed it, and she
Right.
understood,
yeah.
pretty easily. So
Yeah.
But
I
also,
know that
it's
I know both of you are very much into self-improvement and advocates for therapy and having done some work on yourselves. And I know you know about childhood and earlier trauma and multi-generational curses. Yeah, Matteo, you were, when I gave you my book, you were starting to talk to me about multi-generational curses. I was like, whoa, he knows what he's talking about. What have you guys learned about that? About, what you need to do about the trauma we all bring in? I'm sure you guys each have some trauma that you've been working through, or what you think your multi-generational curses are.
yeah, I mean, for me, I would say that is trying to understand it, right? Because you have a choice. If you kind of see that you have something going on that reflects back to as you were growing up, that things that were happening, at
Hmm.
that point you make a choice. You make a choice to whether you just don't care and you just go with the way you were
Hmm.
kind of like brought up. Because as a child, you're picking up everybody's habits growing up because you think it's a normal attribute to have. So you
Hmm.
just wind up like sucking it all in, and then as you get older, you think it's
Yeah.
normal, but you
Hmm.
don't realize that there's what 300 million people in the United States of America. They all have different personalities, right? They
Hmm.
all had different
Hmm.
issues that they grew up. So it's the understanding, like, do they understand what they went through in their life to their their generational
Yeah.
curses, as we
Well, and
would say.
then we're usually acting those out in our marriages. We bring in
Correct.
the childhood, coping mechanisms, which usually aren't very good. What can children do other than shut up and be quiet, fight
Mhm.
back, run away, literally? And then you try to do those things unconsciously in a marriage, and you're repeating the multi-generational curse, whether it's silent treatment. I'm sure many of us that are watching right now probably have cutoffs in our families where people just cut each other off. They don't deal with anything, or their family environment was more explosive. And then that's your blueprint. So, but do you guys feel like you both have worked on really trying to be aware of, we're really talking about patterns that come from what we learn from when we're little. We take that in. That's our blueprint. I always call it the blueprint baggage. How do you feel you guys are doing with that now in your relationship?
definitely be self-aware of
Yes.
behaviors and things like that. And I think that's why it's really important for individuals to get therapy. Like,
Hmm.
he does his inner work, I do my inner work, and then we come together and we're both growing together and as
Absolutely.
individual people.
Yeah.
And I'm like a like a big believer in therapy, and I advocate it for everyone because it does help you get through things. And really, like, you have to do also self-reflection within, because we're not perfect. I'm
Yeah.
not perfect, he's not perfect. We all
Hmm.
have issues that we have
Hmm.
to work on, and it's for the rest of our life. I feel like that's you're gonna continue to
Hmm.
work, but you
Yeah,
have
that's the
to want
key.
to acknowledge that you
Sure.
have these things, because sometimes people don't realize they have these things and they think they're perfect.
Yeah. And a lot of people, when they come to me, they're at least aware maybe the relationship's in trouble, but some people come in and say, I don't want to change anything about myself. I'm not changing my personality. Well, relationships really aren't about personality. They're about actions and interactions and how you treat each other every day, and it's not so much about big date nights, although those are great. I like people to think about, how do you treat each other every day? Do you have each other's back? Do you listen to each other? Are you focused on giving more so than on complaining? I don't like people to put all that energy into the complaining and the problems. If you can, as a team, work together rather than as adversaries, it should be the two of you against the issue, not against each other. I, yeah,
100% agree with you,
good,
Tiffany.
good.
I, he knows, like, I'm so big on positive energy, positive mindset. And I think, like, complaining just doesn't get
Yeah,
anywhere.
yeah. So I want to ask you a different question. This is a question that I usually start with when I talk to couples, but I chose to go right into the obstacles with you guys. What's going well now in your relationship that you would like to keep increasing as time goes by?
Everything's going so bad.
Yeah, no.
Things.
I mean, the only thing I can tell you is the communication. That was like
Yeah.
like I said, one of the hardest things that we experienced. And obviously, there's other tough conversations that we
Hmm.
do have, but it's been so much easier to have those conversations where
Great.
now it's like we're like two friends talking
Oh,
about
that's
things that
great.
were difficult. Yeah,
Well, it was always two friends talking. I
Hmm.
think it just,
Hmm.
we
I
were
don't
just mad at
know,
each other
like,
for a little bit. You know how you, as
And that's
friends, like
okay
are bickering a
too.
little bit, then
You
you kind
know,
of just like,
yeah, it's
uh,
okay we're going to be mad at each other sometimes. And I didn't use the term in the beginning, but a teacher of mine, Terry Real, he talks about normal marital hatred. And some people get like, oh my God, you said marital hatred? What? That's not right. Well, it's human there are moments where you're like, oh my God, if this person does this one more time, I don't know what I'm going to do. We have moments, but someone the other day gave me a really good phrase. They said, we talk about taking a pause if the communication's not going well. And they gave me this phrase. They said, tell your partner, I know you're struggling right now, if they feel like they're going to get into an argument. I know you're struggling right now, and I can't be with you right now, but I'm cheering you on, and I'll talk to you later when we feel better. So just being able to not shy away from, I have couples that they tell me for 20, 30, 40 years. Some of the topics you guys have mentioned so far, communication about finances and being open with each other, that they have never talked about those things. And then, let alone sexuality. Oh my goodness. I have couples that have never in 30 years asked each other, what do you like? What do you don't like? How can we make this better? Is this pleasing to you? They've never talked about it. So you guys feel, it sounds like the communication is tied to you guys solving your differences and not avoiding conflict. And anything else going well that you feel really proud of?
everything. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
like we like we're doing well. We have so much peace in our
Oh,
relationship,
that's great.
which is like a huge thing that you should
Mm-hmm.
have is peace.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, but we always had peace from day one. So
Oh,
even when I
that's
met him,
nice.
it
Yeah,
was just so like calm, like,
yeah,
you know, um,
the one thing that just to rewind a little bit from what you were saying before is
yeah.
from other couples. There's one instance that like it just kind of like plays in my head a little bit, and I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of looked back and I said to myself when I heard this happen, I said, "Man, I was like, I never want to be in that position."
Mm.
And I remember I was with a friend of mine, and his wife had pissed him off, like I guess bad. And as she walked away, he, kind of like said something really, really bad, like
Mm.
under his voice. And I just looked at him, and I remember coming home, and I don't know if she remembers this, but
Yeah.
I came home and I was like, you know something? I was like, I never want to get to that point in a
Mm,
relationship. But even if we did, I still wouldn't like find myself to do that, because at that point, then why are you even staying in this relationship?
hmm.
You know, to like say something like in that harsh
Yeah,
manner.
yeah. And
But you
harshness
know,
never does
and
any
again, at that
good.
point, it's like looking back on what I know about them is that I don't think they communicated or figured out how to communicate where they can
Hmm.
trust each other with their own feelings.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
think that the
don't put,
communication, I think, is the biggest.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
And,
like it should be like the top of
yeah.
But you have
Well,
to,
pyramid.
but you have to work. Like, let's say if he points something out to me, like, and
mhm.
I have to take a step back and be like, okay, yeah, I have to maybe like take that into consideration and work on that, work on
Yeah.
it with my
Put it
therapist.
in. Yeah.
So I think it's really important to also, because I do tell him, oh, babe, like, you know, because can I share this about like Venus?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, so he was petty. He had at one point he was like being petty, and I'm like, why are you being
Okay.
so petty over this? And then
Mhm.
so I did point that out to him, and he worked through it, and now
Good.
he's not petty
Good.
at all. But
Yeah.
That pettiness I realized was stemming down to growing up, because I have my
Mhm.
like my siblings, and it was always like this little bickering back and forth
Uh-huh.
nonstop. And then that's something that kind of was like basically instilled with me, because I lived with my siblings for like 20 something years. So you kind of like create this bickering behavior. And then when she started pointing it out, I was like, why am I
Hmm.
bickering? And
yeah,
then I took a step back, rather than fight it and ignore it. I
Yeah.
just started saying, why is she saying that? And that's one thing I did learn years ago. I was in high school. When I was in high school, my teacher said to me one time, I said something. He goes, why are you such a wise ass? And it didn't bother me. I just laughed it off, right?
Uh-huh.
And then one day, one of my cousins said that to me as I got a little bit older. They're like, you're a little wise ass. And then I was just like, it
Mhm.
kind of bothered me a little bit, but I didn't understand why he was saying it. Then one
Mhm.
day, I was in the car with my dad, and I remember saying something, and he's like, you turned into a little wise ass, but he said it in Italian. And that day, that sat with me, and I
Uh-huh.
and I
Mm.
said, I don't want to be like that. If my dad's saying that I'm being a wise ass, I was
Yeah.
like, there's something wrong. And
I
that's when I started learning to,
To,
I
kind
don't
of
think
like,
you're a boy.
no,
you know,
not anymore, because I realized it, because I don't want my dad
Well,
to.
when was
but
that? Well, I've been knowing him for what, 9 years, so I don't know.
No,
you
no,
don't know
this
him to be a
I
wise
was
man.
like
Like high
I was
school
like
days,
14
right?
years old.
We're talking about like
But we
It's
bring
just
all of this in. We bring sibling relationships in, and sometimes the marriage starts to look like not a sibling in terms of you're acting like brother and sister, but you're bringing like twins sometimes have a lot of problems in their marriages because they recreate that dynamic. Or if you, I don't know, are you an older or a younger? Both of you.
me.
Yeah,
I'm the second
you're the
out of four.
second of how many?
Four.
So you're in the middle. And Leonella, where are you?
I'm the smallest. I mean, smallest. I'm the baby.
You're the
My
baby
mom
of
had
the
only
family.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
two
all
kids.
of that plays into it, a baby and an older one, or two babies who, these roles have something to do with how we are then in our marriages. Um,
Oh,
But
another the big thing is almost forgot
yeah.
is ego.
oh yeah, you have
What do
to
you mean?
put it down.
Having the ego, like you basically when you're in the discussion, and then you allow your ego to kind of like rule the conversation, rather than take a step back and say, oh,
Yes.
you know what, like okay. And once the ego comes in, then it just I feel me from what I've been learning, it's just way worse.
Yeah. One of the very most common things I see in couples when they come in is they don't know how to open up like this and how to receive feedback from each other. They go immediately to defensiveness,
Yes.
attacking,
Ego.
explaining, excusing, but that is the most common. And we don't really learn the skill of like dropping the ego. I tell people you got to drop down, take in, tell your partner, tell me about me. Okay, what do you have to tell me? Let me take it in. Even learning to say, thank you for telling me that. I will think about it, or I will do better, or I'm sorry. And it is so much easier than what most couples are doing. The fighting that goes on for weeks, and silent treatment, and the, defending and excusing. And it's so easy to just say, tell me what's bothering you. Let me take it in and take accountability for myself. So
I,
you guys sound like you're in a good place there, which is really
yeah,
nice to see.
I have such a big ego. Just kidding.
Mm,
And also like again, listening to other people, when they had to vent a little bit, and you
mhm,
hear things like, "Oh, I was so mad that but I left the house, and
mm,
I just went and crashed at my friend's house, or I stayed at a hotel." And I'm like, I would listen, and I'm like, "But what is that? What's that solving?" Like, you know what I mean? Like,
mhm.
and I had friends that would do that, but luckily for us, that we never got to that point
Yeah.
of like walk out. Maybe we just might
Yeah,
sleep like in a separate room
yeah,
or just a little bit of separation, which was good until we reestablished to communicate and
yeah.
drop down that ego a little bit.
So
Yeah, 'cause I do.
I'll give you another one of my tips that I tell pretty much all of my couples: how to take a pause, how to take a timeout, not running out, slamming doors, driving away, cursing. Don't let yourselves get to that point. Both take responsibility for, okay, we're escalating. It feels like an argument is going to start. Let's take a break. And you, either one or both, be responsible to say that. But say, I think we need to take a break. This isn't good for us. And either one of you could say, I'm going to take a break now, or let's separate, but here's when I'll check back with you. I'll check back in a couple minutes or an hour or a half hour or a couple hours. So you do it responsibly and you label it so you don't abandon each other. That's the most important thing, is to have each other's back, to not keep abandoning each other. And I see so much of couples who, every time there's a conflict, I'm calling a divorce lawyer, or I'm leaving and not coming back. And then it's not safe to bring up the issues like you guys have learned to do, is to put these things on the table. And then it's okay. That's how you can keep growing together.
Yeah, you have to talk about it. But I have told him I need time to
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Like and then he lets me be, and we go our own ways.
And you label it, you say, we'll come
So
back to it, but you got to make sure you really do come back to it.
I'll come back to it next year.
Yeah. Oh, that's a little long.
Not in my book.
I
But
usually go more
right.
than a day.
You're at 15 minutes. Put
Yeah.
it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have to say, like, he's great. Like, he has so much patience for me because, oh my God, I'm so annoying at times.
Mhm.
But he just knows how to really, like, you know, I don't know. He's just very gentle and, lets
That's
me
beautiful.
be.
So we're just about at the end of our time here. Before I close it up, I want to say a huge thank you to you guys for doing this. It's so generous and gracious of you. And I know people are going to be helped by this, because we covered some really important points about the foundations of a relationship. So, on behalf of everybody who watches, thank you for what you gave us today.
Thank you for
Yeah,
having
thank you.
us.
Oh,
Definitely.
my pleasure. And so, to go back to where we began, do you have to have dread and feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do this till death do us part, or for better or worse? No, you don't have to be miserable. It is possible to stay in love, and stay in love for the long term. I'm going to give you the words of the father of family therapy, Salvador Minuchin, who, when he was interviewed for the last time, was asked, what's one thing you would say to a couple? What's the most important thing that you've learned in 50 years? And he said, let your partner change you. So let your partner change you. You got to work at this, guys. It's a commitment to action, not just words. You got to practice it. You have to learn new skills. And as Leonella and Matteo told us, be willing to grow individually so you can grow together. Well, thank you so much for being here today. This is the Return to Love podcast with Dr. Deb. And remember, love is a precious gift. So make each day a whole season of love. See you again soon.